Hey guys, TGKS Productions. For this Red Dead Online video, we're going to be discussing the new Vitalism Studies that was added to Red Dead Online this past Tuesday, September 8th. So I do apologize for being a few days later with this video. I know that this is a few days after this Vitalism Studies was added into Red Dead Online, but I wanted to talk about this on the channel. I want to discuss really how you get started with the Vitalism Studies, the steps you have to take, as well as discuss our current Vitalism study that we have in Red Dead Online, the whitetail buck, which we're also going to talk about. And I did some testing with the whitetail buck that I also want to share with you in this video, or at least share the results that I acquired as I was testing our current Vitalism study. So the Vitalism Studies is extended content from the Naturalist role update and is also tied to the Naturalist role, but it does appear that Rockstar will likely further the Vitalism Studies in Red Dead Online in the coming weeks as they're adding more content from the Naturalist role update into Red Dead Online with the legendary animals as well as new Vitalism Studies. The reason why I say this is, and a lot of players actually had questions about this because they were very confused about it because they had no idea what this actually was at the time. But if you purchase the Outlaw Pass number 3 and you start progressing through it, you actually get a benefit discount for 5 gold bars off of a Vitalism study pamphlet of your choice. And we don't even have that in Red Dead Online. There's no pamphlets at this point that you can purchase in Red Dead Online from Harriet regarding the Vitalism studies. So it does look like that they are going to further the Vitalism studies. I was even doing some research. Looked like there were some data miners that even found some other animals that likely may be added into Red Dead Online that we'll be able to turn into with the Vitalism studies. And again, we're going to talk about all of that in this video. So it does appear that they are going to further the Vitalism studies in the coming weeks, but we obviously have to wait and see what that all entails. So in order to get started with the Vitalism studies, you'll see that Harriet, or any one of her 3 locations, she is highlighted yellow. And if you hover over her, it states that this is an ideal spot for naturalists to consume Harrietum officinalis and commune with nature. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. It sounds Latin, so if there's any Latin takers or people who have taken Latin that are watching this video, you may be able to pronounce that better than I am. Does look Latin. In any case, not to get off track here, I am going to go visit Harriet, and essentially this name for this herb here, this flower, is actually what you're going to need to consume in order to be able to transition into the buck, which, like I said, we're going to talk about in this video. But before we do any of that, we're going to have to go over to Harriet's location and go through a cutscene, which I'm going to present you here, and then we'll get on with the video on how you actually turn into this buck.
You know, this connection between us, it's developed into something quite powerful, don't you think? The majority of people go through life believing they see everything, when in fact, they see almost nothing, confined by the limits of their own consciousness. Just imagine if you could scurry as a possum, hop as a rabbit. Well, I've discovered an herb, scarlet and amethyst flowers. Harrietum officinalis was what I've named it. If you can make contact with a vestige of the animal while ingesting the herb and truly opening your mind to its vital forces, you will be transported in ways you can't even begin to fathom. Trust me, this will open your eyes. Be free. I wouldn't share this information with anyone but you.
So apparently your work for Harriet for collecting these samples of these animals have paid off. It has led to this new Vitalism study, so that is very cool. But you see that we received a buck Vitalism study, and in order to obtain the buck Vitalism study, you're going to have to go into your satchel, into the document, specifically into the documents section of your satchel, and you will have a category that is labeled as Vitalism Studies, and that is where you're going to find the Buck Vitalism Studies document. And when you're looking at this, the most important part of this document is actually really the last paragraph or the couple of sentences that are stated there. And it says that there's one location where I feel close to its splendor, there with 5 samples of Harrietum officinalis. I hope to commune with the buck once more. That is the most important part of this document because that really gives you an idea of what you need to do in order to be able to turn into the buck or utilize the vitalism studies. I also want to state really quickly, if I haven't already made a note in the video, but you do have to be naturalist rule level 5 in order to be able to participate in the vitalism studies. Now, if we follow the instructions of the buck vitalism document or study, it says that we need to find, or the first step really in that last paragraph or couple of sentences there stated that we needed to find 5 of these new flowers that were added into Reddit Online. And what I found to be most efficient, what I say what most players are utilizing, is actually the gene rope or rope key map. And not to be confused with, because he actually has 2 maps. There's one that he has for collectibles, and there's another one that he has for like random events or animal spawns or herbs in Reddit Online. And that's actually the map you're going to want to use, and that is how you're going to find this special flower. And I'll leave a link to that map in the description so you'll be able to utilize it if you don't exactly know where to find it. But it is not the collector's map. It is a totally different map made by the same person. But to be clear, again, it is not the collector's map. Now, pretty much what I've started to do at this point, or my next step, was utilizing the map that I just talked about. I set out to collect these herbs that I needed in order to turn into this buck. And essentially what I decided to do is I pretty much just pinpointed on the map 5 of them because I needed 5. And I just started pinpointing them, ones that I thought would be most convenient for me to go collect. I counted about 35 of these herbs to be spread around the world of Red Dead Online. They seem to be most grouped around tall trees as well as Ansburg area, or what would be like east of Amberino or east of New Hanover. So those seem to be where they're most grouped. They seem to want to grow more in like forest regions. Any like dry or like desert regions they're not really going to grow in as much. But it's really up to you to decide which ones you want to collect. You are going to need 5. So pretty much I just decided, like I said, pinpoint 5, collect 5 of them. And what is actually interesting that I figured I'd mention also really quickly is on the gene rope map, if you actually click or hit the flower icon or one of the flower icons or herb icons that you need, this Harrietum officinalis, it actually says you need 3 to 5 to be able to turn into an animal. I would say this also suggests we're likely to receive more animals in the future, possibly maybe even smaller animals like a rabbit that may only take 3 of these herbs that you'll need to take instead of 5, but obviously we'll have to wait and see. But to be clear, you do need 5 in order to be able to turn into the buck. Now, once you effectively collect 5 of these herbs that are needed to turn into the buck, you're going to want to travel up to Big Valley, which is to the north of West Elizabeth. I'm actually going to show you exactly where this is, pinpointed on the map. But you have to travel up to this pinpoint location. I'm going to show you. It's actually near this dead tree in Big Valley. If you actually use Eagle Eye and you start getting close to this dead tree, you are going to see sort of the glowing that typically appears, on top of like legendary bounties or collectibles, that goldish orangish glow. And there's going to be buck tracks there you're going to have to inspect, and that will officially, and there you can see the location there pinpointed on the map. But once you inspect those tracks, you will turn into the buck. One thing that I was confused with is I thought that you actually had to consume the herbs from your interaction menu, but actually the eat option, or not interaction menu, I'm sorry, your satchel. However, you can see that the eat option is completely grayed out. So you actually just have to have the 5 herbs and then just go to this location, inspect the tracks, and then you will turn into the buck. That's all you have to do. You don't actually have to eat them. Your character will actually do an eating animation right here once he inspects the tracks. And that's pretty much all you need to do. So after a short wait, you can see that we have effectively transformed into the buck. And it does say, and I'll also sort of reinstate this with my testing right after this, which will pretty much be the last part of this video. But it does say that if you travel too far away from sort of this general area or the area where you transform into the buck, this big valley area, you will end up losing connection. And then also, if you end up being killed, you will also, lose connection and go back to your character. But in any case, pretty much you're able to run around as a buck. If you play GT Online, another Rockstar game or online world, this is very similar to sort of peyote plants that have been added to GT Online from time to time. I believe they're in story mode as well. But essentially, you just run around as a buck. If I remember correctly, I believe just holding L3 forward controls sort of the movement. And then if you actually hold R2 down, you can charge with the antlers, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you can necessarily knock over animals. I was having some issues doing that, but you can knock over players, which we're going to see here shortly. But essentially, that's really all you can do. Nothing too special about this. Is cool, but not really too much you can do here. But in any case, like I said, is a fairly cool and unique addition to Red Dead Online. So now on to the final part of this video, which is where I conducted some testing regarding the buck vitalism study. So after, you do have to collect another 5 herbs if you want to be able to replay this. So I did have to go out and collect another 5 herbs, but I wanted to see how far you could actually travel away from the general area from where you spawn or turn into the buck. I wanted to sort of conduct just one test there just to get an idea. And you actually see it's not really that far. When you start traveling away from the area from where you spawn, you'll start to sort of you hear sort of like a heartbeat sound, and then your screen will actually turn like grayish. And then the further away that you travel, your screen will pretty much the heartbeat will get, or that audio will get a little bit more intense, and then your screen will just fade out. And then from there, pretty much you're going to be turned back into your regular character self. So you really can't travel all that far away from the location. I mean, you only really have about 5 minutes as the buck, but I wish they would have extended the area just a little bit more. But yeah, you really can't travel that far away from the general area from where you transform into the buck. So another test we did here is, and I'm going to show you, I actually did 2 trials for this test, but I'm going to show you the trial from my perspective from where my friend is actually the buck and I am still my regular character. And we want to see if you could complete or progress the animal field guide for the whitetail buck. And the simple answer to that is it doesn't appear to do that. We tried to take a picture of the buck. You can't take a picture. I was able to take a picture of my friend here, but it's not going to count towards the animal field guide. You can even see those green frames that indicates that there's an animal, usually with the advanced camera, aren't even lighting up. We also tried to track, or I was tracking my friend here. You can see that his name came up. Able to track him, but did not count towards animal field guide. I also tried to sedate and sample my friend as well. All that I got here was an increased hostility, so that also did not appear to work. It did not count towards animal field guide. And something else here, just sort of intermediate or in the middle here. My friend decided, I just wanted him to charge at me to see how much health I lost. I did the same thing with him. We both lost around, or when we did his trial, which obviously I'm not going to show that, but when he charged at me, I lost about 25% of my outer health core. So it does look like the buck can deal a bit of damage if you were to, if a buck was to charge at you. But we just wanted to try that also as well. And then the final thing that we did here, or final thing that I performed here, was I used the elephant rifle to kill my friend. And it does work. You can kill the whatever player is the animal, or in this case, the buck. But once again, it does not count towards animal field guide. Got a really cool animation disappearing there. But again, none of this counts towards animal field guide. We kept track of the animal field guide for the whitetail buck. Nothing progressed. So anything that was done here does not go towards animal field guide. So long story short, you cannot complete the animal field guide if someone, if a player is a whitetail buck. It will not work. So the one final test that we wanted to conduct was we wanted to see if you could sort of have a buck war, or if multiple players could transform into the buck at the same time and sort of, I guess, charge at each other or sort of fight each other. And in the process of this, my friend was the posse leader. I was the posse member. We wanted to see if the if the posse leader activated this, if it would also take the posse member in to this hallucination or turning into a buck. It does not do that. A lot of times, the posse leader, if they activate like a mission or join a job or free mode event, it will take the posse member with them. It does not do that with this scenario. So each individual player in a posse or not will have to have 5 of those flowers, and they must also activate the buck or turning into a buck individually or themselves. So posse organizations, aren't going to affect who's going to be able to do this. It's all done individually. We also realized that when I spawned as a buck and when my friend spawned as a buck, we were actually different variations of a whitetail buck, which was also cool. So I guess if multiple players are doing this in the same lobby, you might have multiple variations of a whitetail buck. So that is also really cool. But all in all, as far as our test is concerned, we really weren't that effective in being able to charge at each other, have a fight with each other. It didn't really seem to work. We really couldn't kill each other or knock each other over. So from our test, it didn't really seem that effective. So it doesn't really seem like you could have a buck war with another player. However, one thing, or really 2 things we did find out was pretty interesting during this test is if you were by a stream of water and you hold triangle, you can actually drink from the stream of water. And also, if you hold up on the D-pad, or not really hold up on the D-pad, but click up on the D-pad, you can make buck noises, which was also very interesting. We found interesting. Similar, like if you were just your regular character, you'd be able to whistle to your horse. I'm assuming that's where that comes from. But those were 2 things that we did find out with this test that we thought were pretty interesting and pretty cool regarding turning into the buck. But in any case, guys, that's pretty much everything I want to present to you in this video. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you find it beneficial regarding the new Vitalism Studies to Red Dead Online. Definitely let me know if you find anything else that would be worth trying as far as transforming into this buck, or maybe other animals in the future that would be worth testing. Definitely let me know. But as always, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Be sure to comment if you have any questions, and have a great day.